And next we have Andrew Markham from the Center for Self-Advocacy, who will speak to Plank 5, establish an accessible office of the New York State Office of Persons with Developmental Disabilities in the City of Buffalo. And we should also congratulate Andrew because he was recently selected in the first class of Open Buffalo Democracy Fellows.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andrew Markham. I'm here representing the Center for Self-Advocacy as well as the Voice Buffalo Task Force on Accessibility. The task force includes a number of different partners, including the Learning Disabilities Association of Western New York, the Erie County Office for Persons with Disabilities, the Developmental Disability Alliance of Western New York's Family Committee, and the Self-Advocates of New York State. This task force, led by Voice Buffalo and its partners, has been advocating for an accessible office of persons with developmental disabilities to be located in the city of Buffalo on a public transit route. The OPWDD for Western New York is currently located at the site of the former West Seneca Developmental Center, which is a site that was formerly a state institution deliberately built in isolation from the community decades ago. It's nearly 3 miles from the nearest public transit point, and the bus route to this facility was cut a number of years ago, which is one of the things that prompted our organizing efforts here. Many people who once lived at the West Seneca site where the OPWDD is currently located experienced abuse, neglect, and isolation there. And yet, despite the progress that we have made in disability rights and inclusion, some of the former residents of the West Seneca institution now have to go there to receive services. At the very place where they were once abused and isolated from the community. The local DDRO officials, as well as several of our legislators, the Partnership for Public Good, of course, Voice Buffalo, and many others have all supported our efforts to relocate these offices into the community because they recognize the need for a more inclusive, integrated service center where people with disabilities can access jobs, receive services, and interact with the OPWDD administrators in a community setting. The Western New York DDSO has demonstrated best practices for many years now that show supportive and meaningful inclusion by people with disabilities is important not only in committees, but with the support, with providing peer support at ISP meetings, in the development of person-centered plans, in the exercise of voting rights, and in the development and support of self-advocacy groups and activities for people that the state serves. They have done this by hiring self-advocates to do this work for the state and by hosting the Western Region Office of Self-Advocates of New York State. But if people with developmental disabilities cannot get out to the office for people with developmental disabilities, they can't fulfill these important jobs. They can't access the services and supports they need. And they and their supporters are left without a voice within the offices that are intended to serve them. And this is at a time when we know that services are transitioning to a totally new model of managed care. And it's a critical time for disability advocates and people with disabilities to have a voice in the process. Now, we know that the state of New York, including the OPWDD, has committed to greater inclusion in the community for people with disabilities, but this is obviously not going to happen if people with disabilities cannot access services, if they can't do their jobs, if they can't access decision makers and be a part of decision-making processes. And that's why we're doing this. So we made significant progress over the last year with the support of PBG and our partners. We have an open dialogue with the OPWDD Commissioner's Office, with the Representative Governor's Office, with legislators and community leaders, but it's going to be a difficult process. It's going to take multiple years. It's going to take an investment in money to relocate. And so now is the time to keep the pressure on. And I just want to conclude by saying that this facility was deliberately isolated from the community, and it's dilapidated. And as much as it might cost to relocate it, it costs a lot more to keep it there. And it's not just the financial cost of investing in a building and a campus that's falling apart. It's the psychic cost, the emotional cost, the social cost of telling people with disabilities, you're not included in this community. And we're going to make you get services at a place where we once deliberately isolated you. There are the remnants of a morgue in the basement of this building where people with disabilities died and were buried in isolation from their community. It is unacceptable to continue to have people go out there for services. So I appreciate your support. I'm honored to be a part of this organization, and thank you. We're looking forward to getting this off the agenda as quickly as possible.